I'm back. Let's do a September TBR. Hello, I'm Colleen Delaney. For those of you who are new here, I talk about books and writing, and this video is going to be about the books I'm going to read in September. As always, in the description, there will be links to my newsletter and my books. If you are interested in any of them, you may click. If you are a new person and want to jump ahead to the books, I will put a timestamp in so you can. If you are not and you want to listen to a little bit of me chatting, then stay here. Thank you all so much for sticking around while I took some time off. I really appreciate it. August was a very, very hard and difficult month, and I'm still obviously dealing with a lot of grief, which I will be for a long time to come. Thank you to anyone who sent me extremely kind words. They really meant a lot to me. And since I am not the type of person who likes to show any sort of emotion in front of anyone, including myself, let's go back to talking about books. I've decided that this September is going to be a mood reading month. I'm not giving myself a strict list of books that I have to abide by. I have a huge pile of books spread out around me right now that I might read depending on what I feel like. I also did not end up reading very much in August, and because of that, there are some books that were on my August TBR that I did not get to that I did put on this TBR. I organized them in kind of a funky fashion that makes sense in my brain, and let's go ahead and get started with all the romance novels that I might read in September. The first one I know I am going to read because I'm already about 30% done with it, and that is Striking Gold by Janine Amesta. And Janine and I are writing friends, and I am so proud of her that this book came out, and it's beautiful so far, so I'm really enjoying it. It's a contemporary romance about a woman named Mia who has kind of like burnt out extremely quickly in a political career and finds herself moving back in with her dad in her hometown, trying to find a job. She goes into a jewelry store that has some very beautiful pieces and a help wanted sign, and tries to apply for a job and can't figure out why the owner is being so weird, and then realizes that he remembers her from high school, but she has no idea who he is. I'm at the part of the book where she has just realized who he is, and we've had a nice flashback to their relationship in high school, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's got great jewelry description, which is not anything I've ever read before, but like all the pieces that they describe sound gorgeous and like things I would really like to own. So I'm really liking this book so far, and I'm very proud of Janine, and you should check it out if you like contemporary romance. Next, I have Small Town Big Magic by Hazel Beck. This poor book, I was supposed to read it last October and then didn't, and then I wasn't really in a witchy mood in like November, December, and then I wanted to read in August and I didn't pick it up. But hopefully I'll read this in either September or October. It is about a woman who, I can't remember her name right now, Emerson, who lives in a town where she doesn't think anything is going on, but it turns out she's just not magical, so she can't see the magic. And it's a childhood friends to lovers story. It says it's a great read for fans who liked the X-Hex, which I did like the X-Hex. I didn't love the X-Hex, but I thought it was enjoyable, and this is kind of what I figured it would be, reading the description and picking it up. So we'll see if I get in a witchy mood and want to read this. Staying with the witchy theme, I have Witchling by Yasmin Galenorn, I think is how you say it. This is like a 2006. Let's see if I remember the publication date. I was right. This is a 2006 romance publication. I found this at Half Price Books, I think in May, but maybe like last September. I can't even remember when I found this, but I haven't read it yet. And I am just in sort of like a romance mood. I just want to read things that are not going to make me feel horrible emotions, are only going to make me feel happy ones. And I feel like this might be the ticket. I just realized I kind of matched the cover today. I've got that purple on also. And I believe I've said this before in a video when I bought this. This was very much the aesthetic that I wanted to look like, probably before 2006, because by then I had a job. In like 2003, this is what I wanted to look like a witch who maybe hunted vampires on the side. I don't know, but I'll let you know what I think of this. I know it's a series. I saw the second book at Half Price Books once, probably from the same person, and I didn't buy it though, just in case I didn't like the book. But maybe I'll love it, and this will be a good series to read this autumn. Keeping with the paranormal vein, I have Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. I also bought this last October and then ended up not reading it in October. This is about Frankenstein, like not the monster, the scientist's younger sister, who decides to like build herself a man. And the reason I didn't read it is someone told me it was more like fantasy than romance. And at the time when I was thinking about picking it up, I really wanted to read a romance. I just found a bookmark in here. It's good. I already have one in there. And so I didn't pick it up, but I think this is the year that I'll give it a try and see what I think. I got to get geared up for my Halloween vibes as well. Next, I have a couple ARCs on my Kindle. And so the first is The Duke Starts a Scandal by Sophie Jordan. This is the fourth book in the Duke Hunt series. I've purposely not read any of the description. I love this series so much. The Rake Gets Ravished, which was book 2, and The Scoundrel Falls Hard, which was book 3, they were both on my best books of the year, the years I read them. I know I read The Scoundrel Falls Hard in 2022. I can't remember if I read The Rake Gets Ravished in 2021 or 2022. They're both phenomenal. And so I'm really excited to read this. And I think I've talked about this before, that Sophie Jordan is very much like a comfort read to me. Like when I just like love going back into her world, like her Regency world just feels wonderful to fall into. So I know I'll read that one this month. I'm very excited. And then I have Hunt on Dark Waters by Katie Robert. This is the first book in a new series of hers. Katie Robert writes the Dark Olympus series. She writes a ton of books, but I've read the Dark Olympus series. And this is about a witch who like falls through a portal and ends up on a pirate ship. And I haven't read a pirate romance in a while. I read The Heiress at Sea by Christy Caldwell. When did I read that? That was this year, I think. I think it was in the winter or maybe even spring. And that wasn't so much pirate as like just like boating, Regency boating. And I thought it might be fun to read a pirate story. And, Katie Roberts a pretty solid writer, so a great person to write a pirate story. And then I also have the arc for Barbarian's Touch by Ruby Dixon, which is the newest Ice Planet Barbarians book. Those books for me are just like escapism, pure escapism, when I just need to like get out of my head. And I have a feeling I'm going to need to do that a lot this month. September is a month that I really like September in terms of like the weather here is beautiful. And back to school is good, but I get horrible anxiety in September, I think from the mix of back to school and the changing of the light. I get like seasonal anxiety rather than seasonal depression. Neither are great. But so I do find that in September, a lot of times I am up all night sitting in my anxiety, and a good book on the Kindle is a good tool for me. So I have quite a few arcs that are romance and relaxing that I think will be great for me this fall. Let's move on to some more hard copy books I have. I have The Highlander Takes a Bride by Lindsay Sands. This is the third book in the Highlander Bride series. I read the first one in July and I read the second one in August. This one I actually know the plot of because Heaving Bosoms, which is one of my favorite podcasts, did a recap of this years ago. And the book is insane, which makes sense because the first two were kind of insane. And so I am really looking forward to reading this book and then re-listening to the episode on it, because I do just really love, this is an older episode, so it's when it's Melody and it's when Aaron was on the show. I do really love listening to them recap books. I mean, this morning when I went for my walk, I listened to a really old episode of theirs, just recapping a romance novel. It's fantastic. In this one, we have, it's like medieval romance. The heroine, let's see. Oh, she has a very hard to pronounce name. So it's Saidh, which this is like Scottish Gaelic, which I am okay with Irish Gaelic because I had an obsession with it for a little while. If it was Irish, I would say it's like she, but probably not. Last name Buchanan. And she is going to marry Laird MacDonald. But I know there's like intrigue and people are like going to try to murder her, which is fun. And then my last romance I have is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. So I started this book. I'm on page 60. And I don't know if I'm going to finish it. Nothing against the book. But I was reading this book during a very hard time. I started it. And I don't know if I want to read it because of that. Nothing against the story. I just was reading it while I was taking a mental break from something very difficult, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back into it. But I'm leaving it on my TBR in case I do try it and jump back into it, but we'll see. Also, I'd say like it didn't grab me super much because I did stop on page 60 and not continue on reading it. So we'll see if I end up finishing it. I might. I don't know. So that wraps up romance. So now we're going to go to my next section, which is book of the month. I have an insane amount of book of the month backlist right now. And I did just order my book of the month last night, and I'll tell you about those in a little while, what I picked. But I have so many that at this point, I had told myself I was going to try to read 50 pages of Clytemnestra in August, and I did not, because I just wasn't in the space for me to like force myself to read anything. And I make TBR notes that go months in advance, and I was going to try to read Babel, whatever it is, Babel, I think, in September. I was going to try to read some more of it because I've been on page 100 of that since like February. I'm not going to make myself do that this month. I'm not in a headspace to force myself to read anything. And I usually am not a big proponent for forcing yourself to read anything. We're not in school. You should read for fun. But Babel is a dark academic book, and I don't have any dark academia on my TBR for September. I did read one in August that was really good. And sometimes I do want to read dark academia in September because it's like the beginning of the school year. I feel like September and November are like my dark academia months, or like January. But yeah, I think I'm going to be kinder to myself about DNFing book of the month picks. I just am. I mean, I don't have a lot of time in which I can like bring a book I'm not super interested. Like, I feel like if you like fly for work and you're constantly on airplanes where you're like trapped with 2 to 3 hours, I feel like I could read both those books then if I was kind of forced to, but I'm not really. I'm doing right now, the majority of my reading is, before bed or when my kids are playing quietly and I get to sneak in a little bit of reading. And even that hasn't been happening lately. So for now, I'm going to not worry about the fact that I haven't read those 2. But I do have 5 other book of the month books, not counting those. So a total of 7 that I haven't read. And I do want to make a dent this month in that pile. So let's start with one I know I'm going to read. The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. I wanted to get this book so badly, and I was so happy that they had it as an add-on in August. I love Alice Hoffman, and I think the shorter her books are, the better they are. Well, I just think her short books are really good, and this one is pretty short. It's only 250 pages. I think she can write like a really good, tight novel that just makes you feel as emotionally attached to characters that you might get in like a 500-page novel. I think that's like her great talent. Also, I took a picture of this and put it on my Instagram a few days ago, and she liked it and added it to her stories, which I was at. I was with my sister when it happened, and I was like, I have to sit down. I might faint. And she was like, oh my gosh, I know who Alice Hoffman is. I'm like, I know, we all do. We all know Practical Magic. So I started reading this a few nights ago, just the prologue, because I wasn't really in the right headspace to read it, because I think it is going to be a little emotional, and the prologue is beautiful. And the plot is kind of a weird one, but The Ice Queen and Blackbird House, love both those books. Kind of weird plot, it's hard to explain. It's about a woman who like escapes a cult when she's a teenager. Sorry, I just thought I saw someone walk by my house. It was a bird. She escapes a cult when she's a teenager, and she becomes obsessed with Nathaniel Hawthorne, which I think sounds interesting. I'm not a huge Nathaniel Hawthorne fan in terms of like his writing, but I love him in terms of like an early American writer character. I took an entire class on the Concord writers. It's like Emerson, Thoreau, Louise May Alcott, Hawthorne, and Margaret Fuller, who were all like friends living in Concord, Massachusetts at the same time. So I find him very interesting. So I'm looking forward to this. Also, I've said before, I really like to read a book or two over Labor Day weekend. Now, this video will come out on the Monday of Labor Day weekend, hopefully. And so, but I'm filming this before, so I don't know if I will have read it, but I'm planning on reading this plus a romance. So we'll see if I do that. And I hope I love it. Next, I have None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. I got this. This was my pick for August. I love when I do this. It's like the best treat you can give yourself. Just put a bookmark in before you start the book, so when you go to open it, you already have your bookmark. It's a good plan. So this is like, we've got a podcaster who I think is going to get sort of like, I don't know if she's going to get conned. Something's going to happen with this woman who like weasels her way onto her podcast and then disappears. I don't have any other thrillers for this month, so and I do like a thriller, you know. I've been going back and forth on thrillers, but I feel like I read one in August and enjoyed it. Sometimes you just want to read a thriller. So I think this will be a good one for me to get into. And I've never read Elisa Jewell before. And the last time I was at my mom's house, she had one on her shelf. So if I like it, I'll probably steal that from her. Next, I have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Last year, I read Daisy Jones and the Six in September. Not over Labor Day weekend, but I read it in September. And I did enjoy that book a lot. I read Evelyn Hugo in December. So I think I'm going to maybe read this one in September or October. I don't feel as like much pressure to read backlist books I get from Book of the Month. You know, I didn't read Malibu Rising when it came out. I didn't get it as my pick because I hadn't read Daisy Jones and the Six or Evelyn Hugo. So I didn't really know if I liked Taylor Jenkins Reid. And now I know I do. So I'm going to give this one a try. I think I talked about this in the August video, that this takes place in the year I was born. And I am a person that, like, I feel like we all have our decades, you know, that we really enjoy stuff, movies, shows. And the 80s, which is when I was born, 83, it's not like my favorite decade. I don't know. Like, I was never a person who, like, loved Breakfast Club or 16 Candles or anything. I just, like, the 80s kind of never did it for me. Now I'll say I love the 70s, which is probably because my parents were in their teens and like in high school and college in the 70s. And so I find that more interesting probably because I was just like more surrounded by that sort of media growing up. But I hope I'll love this because I did really love Daisy Jones and the Six and love Evelyn Hugo. I think I loved Evelyn Hugo more, but they were both really good reads. So I am looking forward to this one. Okay, so let's talk about what I picked for this month for Book of the Month. I'm grabbing my computer really quickly because I'm not going to be able to remember all the titles because this month, as you know, I did not do any sort of research into what the titles were going to be because I just didn't have it time or in me to do it for September. So the choices were The Intern by Michelle Campbell, which is a legal thriller, Evil Eye by, oh gosh, the font is weird on the title, Etaf, I think that's an F, Rum, which is a contemporary fiction, You Again by Kate Goldbeck, which is a romance, The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa Matlin, which is a thriller, and The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger, which is a historical fiction. Okay, so I almost skipped this month because I don't really like legal thrillers. I don't know if I've ever read one, but like I'm not really even like a legal thriller movie watcher. I think they're fine. Like I saw The Pelican Brief in like, when did that come out? Mid-90s. I haven't really seen even a legal thriller lately. Evil Eye I almost got, but then I read they give you like bullet points and it said it was an emotional family drama and I didn't really want to read an emotional family drama. I almost picked You Again by Kate Goldbeck simply because this cover just screams autumn in your face. And I like fall vibes a lot. But I read a couple of the reviews and it's an over 400-page romance novel, which is fine. But also, I don't know if I want to read an over 400-page romance novel. And you saw, I have 9 romance novels on my TBR list. And I don't usually buy romance from Book of the Month because they're usually rom-coms, which is not my favorite. And I like to just stick with my own genres, you know, that I like. So I did not get that one. The Stranger Upstairs seemed like a good choice. Also, great fall vibes on the cover. But it is about a haunted house. And you know what? I do not with haunted houses. They scare the SHIT out of me. Funny story, my 5-year-old, one of mine, she's one of the twins, told me that she'd really like to go in a haunted house. Now, I think she wants a kid-friendly haunted house. And I told her that my brother has to take her because I am so afraid of haunted houses and related to now he is a man, but he is my younger brother, so I always think of him as a boy, who goes to those haunted houses that like make people vomit. They're so scary. And like a few years ago, he and his wife did what do they call it? A live burial simulation. Are these people insane? I'm glad they found each other. I don't with haunted houses. I'm not reading The Stranger Upstairs. And then The River We Remember is a historical fiction about World War II, and I'm just not a World War II reader. So what did I do? I clicked the little link at the bottom that said, or choose a member fave. And I was like, oh, I was just going to skip it because obviously I have a ton of backlist books, but there was an add-on that I kind of wanted. So I was like, well, let's see what the member faves are. And one was Inkblood Sisters Scribe, and I'm blanking on the author. Hold on, I'm going to tell you in 2 seconds. Emma Tors? Not sure if that's how you say her name. But I've had that on my TBR for a while because when it came out, I don't remember what month it came out, I was torn on whether or not I wanted to get it. Decided not to. People seem to have liked it. It's got a library in it. I love libraries. I was like, why don't I just get it this month? Because I've got it on my TBR anyways. I have so many credits because all you kind people use my my link, and because I'm not affiliated with Book of the Month, my link gets me a free credit. So I end up getting most of these books. I mean, I have to pay my membership fee, but then I get all my add-ons for free. So I was like, I'll get that. And then I wanted to get The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff, which was one of the only books that I saw was coming out in September and was interested in. It's a lit fic, but it's a historical lit fic. Here's the what do they call it? The pitch. A young servant girl's escape from a colonial settlement sparks this exploration of imagination, belief, and history. The good to know is that it is a heavy read, so I'm guessing I'm probably going to read this more at the end of the month. It doesn't use quotation marks. There is graphic violence, but there's also nature. So we'll see. Did I make a mistake in ordering that? I don't know. The cover is really freaking beautiful. And I read the sample pages and really liked it. Also, this book doesn't come out until, I can't remember the date, but they said it's not going to ship till mid-month, which I kind of liked that. So now my box isn't going to come till mid-month. So I'm hoping by the time it comes, I've read at the very least The Invisible Hour, and maybe None of This Is True or Malibu Rising also, so I can feel just like a little bit better about my Book of the Month backlist pile. That is kind of overwhelming. I bought myself a bookcase for my Book of the Month picks probably over a year ago. And it's gotten to the point where now, like, I mean, you can see, I need a new bookcase because I'm not going to, usually I like give away a ton of my books, but I don't want to anymore, especially now that I do BookTube. I like having my books. I like being able to lend them to people. I don't want to sell books that I've enjoyed. I want to give them to my neighbors or my siblings or my mom. So I'm in the market for a new bookcase, partially because my Book of the Months won't fit anymore. So I just have like piles of them. You can't really see up high, but I have piles of them where they're supposed to go. And my bookcase is being overwhelmed. But I'm not going to stop buying them because I love books and I love physical copy books. If I read my Kindle too much, I get carpal tunnel. I'm 40. And that's my month. I'm going to be real honest with you. I have a slight feeling that I might read nothing but romance in September. And I could. I have 9 romances on this list. And you know I'm not going to not go to a bookstore in September. And my town has their big library book sale, which is always fun. And I still have several books I bought last year that I haven't read sitting on my shelf that I didn't even put on this TBR. Giver of the Stars by Jojo Moyes. The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. That might be it. I might have read the other ones. But I really think I am going to read The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. And I do think I'm going to read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So I think you're going to get at least 2 not romance books. I don't know. We'll see. If you are still here, thank you for staying so long. And because you are still here, you're going to get a secret announcement. It's not really a secret. Special announcement. So on September 19th, my new book, Waiting for His Mate, is coming out. It is book 2 in the Wolves of Leuven series. They are post-apocalyptic werewolf romance stories that are kind of dark. My dark romance flavor is like the world and the circumstances are dark. The hero and heroine are not dark. I don't like a evil hero or evil heroine for that matter. But your little secret is that ARCs are currently available. So ARCs are advanced readers copies. And that means I give you a copy of the book in exchange for an honest review. You don't have to like it. You just have to review it. If you are still watching and you are interested in signing up for an ARC, here's what you can do. Because there's no DM function on YouTube, you can find me /follow me on another one of my social medias, which I always link in the description. The best ones to use are Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok because I check those multiple times a day. I'm on Tumblr, so if you only have a Tumblr account, I am on there. I check it infrequently, maybe once a week, maybe every other week. And then I have Facebook as well, which I'm going to be super honest. I go on that like once every 2 weeks. Probably that's it. I don't really do a lot there. But if you go on one of those and you DM me that you were interested in an arc, I'm going to ask you like 3 questions just to make sure you're actually like a romance reader who will review it. And I might ask you like if you use Goodreads, stuff like that. And then I can send you an arc and you can read it, review it, and hopefully love it. Okay, secret time over. As always, I hope you're in the middle of a good book, about to start reading a good book, or about to start writing a great book. I'll see you soon.